I walk upon these pathways of time, hunting, always trying to find a place I can call my own, some place that feels like home. We're lost on journey through this mystic realm, lives like soap opera dream, play out like far-fetched films, intensely succinct, our wandering probe and search for higher spaces. Moments of recognition with yet odd moments and passing faces. Traces of elder soul, eyes embraced in time prior, helping to mark trial, changes, passers by sharing lifetime, knowing we're more than just acquaintance. Friends from different time with old promises to meet. And here we greet again in eternity's street, bound to each other's lives. It reminds us all of the grander scheme, the profundity of this most amazing dream. Moments change as we pass through. Thankful always I am to be here with you. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv, and it's a Saturday Sabbath podcast, and I thank you for taking the time to join with me. For those of you that did catch this Wednesday evening broadcast, I did read some interesting information from this particular text, but I do want to clarify something. I was sent a Facebook message, and I can't remember exactly who it was. Let me pull it up real quick. But I do appreciate when y'all share information with me, because specifically it was Sandy Robinson, and I appreciate you, sister, for taking the time to send me some information about this particular text. And I believe it was the one that you were referring to is called the Book of Abraham, which is different, even though it says, and I will share a link with you to this particular text so you can read it in full. The Book of Abraham was a text that was brought to light by Joseph Smith and is part of the Pearl of Great Price, which is some wisdom texts that are shared in the Mormon, the LDS Church, but that even though this particular text was found and deciphered, and I don't know who did it, and I have been unable to find any other information in connection with it, but this particular text, the one that I refer to as far as the Book of Abraham from the LDS Church, that was supposedly transferred by Joseph Smith from some Egyptian like papyrus texts, 3 of them, and that it's believed that his interpretation and how he came to the supposition that he did, that it was flawed in not only interpretation but also just what he was able to render from those particular papyrus scrolls. But that this text also was found near that same period, but I believe it was 4 years earlier, 1831, and as I said, I've not been able to find any other information on it. I first heard about this text from, let me pull this up for you also so I can be absolutely certain as to what I'm talking about, from on the FallenAngels.tv website. And it was a Van Jerrigan that posted a link about this particular text, asking me if I was familiar with the writings of Abraham, which I was not, and I had not heard about it, but he was asking me specifically about the seed of Cain and the continuance that was allowed through the flood of Noah's day, and as to whether Noah was in fact married to Naamah, which is mentioned in that text, and that not having read this particular text, I had studied and came to similar but very conclusion from this, what we're going to be going into today as far as the writings of Abraham. And I resolved my information from the book of Jasher, specifically chapter 5, which speaks about Noah having taken a wife, and his wife was Naamah, and Naamah was the daughter of Enoch. And according to that particular text, I had inferred, and if you read my fourth book, Lucifer, Father of Cain, I break this down in that, or you can just go to the fallenangels.tv website and click on the discussion, is then familiar with the writings of Abraham. And in there I take out an excerpt from my fourth book, the second edition, where I share information on how I came to my conclusion on Noah having married Naamah, but that rather than as will be presented today, I had assumed that Naamah, the Naamah that was mentioned in the book of Jasher, because it cites her as being, and I'll actually bring that up real quick since we're making mention of it, but it speaks about in the book of Jasher that she was the mother of Shem and Japheth, but not the mother of Ham, and that Noah had been married to at least two wives. There's speculation in this text that will be going into the writings of Abraham that he may have even had a third wife, but that his first wife, which it doesn't mention her by name, but it does mention a younger wife after that of Naamah, but that the first wife was the mother of Shem and Japheth, and that both of them were of the promised line, and that they were absolutely from the seed of Adam, and that the second wife, whether it was Naamah of the daughter of Enoch or Naamah the daughter of Lamech of Cain's line, it depends on what particular text that you read, but it does say that whoever the second wife was, that she was the mother of Ham, and that it is through Ham's line, and Canaan specifically, that the seed of Cain was allowed continuance. And as I had answered in that show, or in last week's show, about why it was that first that Lucifer, Satan, was allowed to beguile Eve and to propagate his own bloodline, and also why it was that the seed of Cain was allowed to make it through the flood. It all goes back to the parable of the sower, and how in that particular parable, Matthew chapter 13, when Christ is speaking about the enemy that snuck into the garden, which is Satan, and that had beguiled Eve and impregnated her with Cain, that he was the father of the tares, that when these servants asked Christ, do they want them to root them up and to get rid of them, he says, no, let both grow until the time of the end. And that in the end he would send his angels as reapers to gather the wheat for the barn and the tares for burning. And that it is only, and I did a show on this past Wednesday, of which it won't be long, and I'll be sharing it on my YouTube channel under Endeavor Freedom. But anyways, that both it would be in the end, in the harvest, that the differences between the tares and the wheat become apparent. Because those that don't know as far as the natural, how the tare resembles the wheat almost completely, but that during the time of harvest, the wheat being laden with bounty, with seed, it will bow in the wind, almost as a sign of humbleness, of just as Christ example to us, that when the apostles asked him who amongst them was greatest, and he washed the feet of all the apostles and said, those amongst you that are the greatest are the servants to each other, that are the servants of each other in humanity, that is the way that he would want us to be. And so the wheat personify that, in that they bow in the wind during the time of harvest, and that the tares, they remain taut and straight up, haughty, pride, arrogant, if you will, in their personification. And so that's the difference between the wheat and the tare. And so so this particular text that we're going to be reading from, and I'm not only going to be focused on this information as far as how the seed of Cain was allowed continuance, but it does elaborate upon that in great detail in this text, and that we'll do a couple shows to cover it, because it's got a lot of really interesting information in it. And so also, I just for Sandy, I wanted you to know the difference, and that what we're going to be talking about here is that this isn't, at least I don't believe so, that this isn't a LDS text, and that and I wish I knew more information about it. I absolutely don't have any further detail on it. I wish that I did, and if anybody knows and has any more information on it, if you would, please do share it with those of us that in the chat room, and for or just send it to me. You can contact me at zengarcia.com. You can also contact me on Facebook under Zen Garcia, and I would be really interested in knowing the greater detail on how this book was found, where it came from, and all of that. And so, that being said, I'm going to post a link to it in the chat room for those of you that are interested. It's broken up into 2 texts. It's 160 chapters, so it's quite a lengthy book. Fascinating, to say the least. And I thought worthy enough to cover in the 2 shows that we're going to be talking about, and that it does parallel in some aspects the book of Jasher, and the information that And also the book of Jasher parallels Genesis as well as Jubilees, and that the three of them together, in reading all three of them, you'll get greater detail on the Genesis account as found in the King James Version of the Bible. Now, I'm in no way claiming this text to be inspired, or that everything that is written in its account is biblically sound. Not saying that at all. I am saying that in what I have learned about the differentiation between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, the seed of Cain and the seed of Adam, that it rings true, and that because of our being the last generation and having learned the things that we have learned, and specific with the revelation of the parable of the sower and the parable of the wheat and the tares, and that Christ spoke of this information as being hidden since the foundations of the world, that I believe it to be profound in that manner. And so, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into the text so that we can comment on it, and that you'll be able to hear a great portion of what it is that I want to talk about and cover from this particular text. All right. The Writings of Abraham, Part 1, which the first part covers chapters 1 through 79. And again, as I said, this is from a papyrus that was found in Egypt in 1831. And again, that the book of Abraham, which is part of the Pearl of Great Price, which is a collection of Mormon literature, and I'm in no way knocking Mormon literature either. I haven't really studied how, but there is a lot of conjecture on the translations, the interpretation of Joseph Smith in coming to the conclusions that he did as far as the book of Abraham. And I don't know whether some of the other Mormon texts were kind of brought into being in the same way. Not too familiar on that, but anyways, so we're going to go into this text, chapter 1. Behold, my son, I have caused to come into thine hands a fragment of the writings of Abraham, in which he hath left a record of his sojourn among men, and of the blessings of the Lord unto him. This I have brought to thee, that thou might restore that which is lost, that the fullness of the record in its original purity might be found again among the sons of God. Behold, these things are sacred, wherefore send them not forth unto the children of men, but let them be for the edification of the elect, that your hearts may be turned unto the fathers, and ye may draw close to them, and they to you. Thus will the veil be withdrawn, and you will commune with the general assembly and church of the firstborn, and shall even be ushered back unto my presence. Go to now and do this work which I have placed in thine hands. Amen. I want to make one other comment here before we go any further, that there are several texts, like there's another one, the Testament of Abraham, which kind of tells the story this similar story in its own way, and that in the latter parts of Genesis we have the full accounting of the story of Abraham as well, how he was called out from Ur, and that his father was the high priest for Nimrod, and that his father and Nimrod, they were all, pagan worshippers, idolaters, and that was one of the reasons why Abram was told, who became Abraham, told to leave the Sumerian, the legacy of his father and of his upbringing in that particular pagan culture. All right, chapter 2. And if you have questions, certainly post them into the chat room and I'll get to them as I can. Abraham was born the son of Terah, who was prime minister to Nimrod, who reigned in Ur of the Chaldeans. Now this Nimrod was a wicked man and an idolater, and my father Terah was led to follow after his abominations. Moreover, Nimrod was a man of mighty power, for he was a master Mahan, and had in his hands the secrets of the ancients, as they had come down from Cain, wherein he knew the words of power and the signs for using them, and he had the holy garments which he had been given unto Adam in the garden, in which was great power. In the show that I did this past Saturday, I shared the accounting of these garments of power, and that they were first given to Adam when he was banished and exiled from paradise, and that Adam was the first in the line of priests from the order of Melchizedek, and that I'll read one real quick passage in reference to this, because in the second half of this text it makes mention of this particular order, and that it says that it was established by the ancient of days, and that the Melchizedek priesthood had been here ever since the banishment of Adam from paradise, if I can find this particular. But anyways, and so the order of light, or the priesthood, was established a long time ago. Even with the banishment of our parents, our parental ancestors, to this particular fallen place and fallen way of being. Okay, here is the passage, I believe. Okay, I think this is it. Let me... Looking for the exact passage. Okay, here it is, I believe. And this is from chapter 98. It says, "Therefore, having been approved of God, he was ordained an high priest after the order of the covenant which God made with Enoch, which is after the order of the firstborn, even our father Adam. For this holy order came not by man, nor the will of man, neither by father nor mother, neither by beginning of days nor end of years, but of God. For it was established in the beginning of the earth by the Ancient of Days. Wherefore it is called the order of the ancients, and it was delivered unto men from the beginning by the calling of God's own voice according to his own will through the voice of his priesthood, unto as many as believed on his name and were faithful until they had obtained. You know how there's a lot of people that say that Christianity is only 2,000 years old, and that the knowledge of the Son and the coming of Christ and the knowledge of monotheism, a Most High God, that all of this is relatively new, but that prior to this, that the ancients, they believed in many gods, and that they revered a pantheon of gods and goddesses. Well, if you don't know that the so-called gods are nothing more than the fallen angels that were cast out of the heavens, and that were, nothing more than the angels of the Most High God, that as the rebel angels were banished from the upper heavens, then you could be led into the strong delusion and get caught up in a belief that is being perpetuated such as this. And so I wanted to read that and share that so that you can understand that going all the way back to the very beginning, and that even that book, the Assatir, it speaks about how even Adam was given 4 books by God from paradise, and he was allowed to bring these 4 books here to the earth and to study from them. And one of them was a book on astronomy and the knowledge of the stars and the things that were written therein, and another was a book on the generations of Adam and humanity. And so the order of Melchizedek in the worship of the Most High and knowledge of the Son, as we talked about in the book of Atum and Ua, which again is a Thracian text that is 1,500 years older, 2,000 years older than the Sumerian and the Egyptian, and that Christianity predates these pagan religions and the establishment of them. All right. Going back into the text. Then I'll check the chat room. All of this power did Nimrod use to get gain after the manner of the secret combination. With his power he had set out to build a tower which would reach to heaven, even the city of my father Enoch, which had been taken up, that he, Nimrod, might depose God from his throne, for God had taken up his abode among the people of Enoch. And that's really interesting to me, because it says not only, Enoch, but the city associated with him, that the entire city was taken up with Enoch. And that this is New Jerusalem, the city of God, which will come down, after the judgment, the harvest, according to Revelation 19 through 21. All right. But God frustrated the plans of Nimrod by confounding the language of him and his people, that they could no longer remember the sacred words, and they scattered forth over the face of the earth. At that time Nimrod came and established the city of Ur, which is the city of light, for he yet retained his determination to build a city to rival the city of God, that the light and power might center in him. And through the ministration of Satan, he did receive again some of the words of power, and did reorganize the secret combination among his people. But he had not power as at the first, for the fullness of the pure language was not restored to him according to the decree of the Most High God. Now, in all the wickedness of Nimrod, my father stood by his side, for he was deceived by the subtle cunning and power which Nimrod possessed. Chapter 3. My father Terah was the son of Nahor, and Nahor was the son of Serug, and Serug was the son of Reu, and Reu was the son of Peleg, in whose days the earth was divided. Peleg was the son of Eber, who was the son of Eber, who was the son of Salah, who was the son of Ephraxad, and the son of Shem, who was Melchizedek, which I found that to be interesting too. Now, there are different stories and different accountings according to, various texts that you read. Some say that Melchizedek was not born and never died, and there are other texts which assert that Melchizedek was born of a certain family of priests, and that Samuel took him and adopted him when his children fell to the way of Cain and became corrupted, and that the priesthood was established again with Melchizedek, and that Melchizedek was told to not leave a certain area of land, and that because he was well respected and honored by not only Abraham but by many other kings and priests, they would come to see him and to get advice from him, and so they built up Jerusalem around him, and that's how Jerusalem was established, according to some of the, some of the texts. And that this is also the place that the altar where Adam had established the first altar, and that this altar was also the one that Noah had repaired after the flood and the devastation of the deluge, and that this is also the altar that Abraham was going to offer Isaac upon. And so all the stories, all the generations, they kept coming back to this particular land. All right, continuing. The son of Shem, who was Melchizedek, which by interpretation is king priest, for he was a king and a priest of the Most High God. Chapter 4. Noah was the son of Lamech, the son of Methusael, the son of Enoch, who was taken up with his city, and that they might minister unto those in the flesh who sought a higher law than was available to them on the earth. Now the birth of Noah was after this manner. While his father Lamech was journeying towards his home from preaching the gospel among these sons of men, most of whom had rejected his testimony, an angel of the Lord appeared unto him and saluted him, saying, Hail, Lamech, thou favored one of God, for according to the promise of the Lord God to thy father Enoch, thou hast been chosen to be father to him, though through whom the seed of the gods will be preserved, through the great flood which the gods will send upon the earth in judgment. For all the sons of men have gone astray through the corruption of those angels who fell from among the gods, and mingled their seed with the daughters of men, and begat sons of great strength and mighty wickedness. All right, I know you might be asking, Well, what is he talking about? Gods. Remember in Psalms 82 where it says that ye are gods, but shall die like men. That the sons of God, the angels, they are referred to as gods with a little g, and that's also why that the fallen angels, the rebel angels, they claim to be gods. This is also why Satan, when he beguiled Eve, he said that when your eyes are open, you shall be as gods yourselves. It's the same thing in that not gods per se as the creator God, Yahweh Elohim, the Most High God, who is the creator who manifests and brought all things into being with the Son, the only begotten, that the Father and the Son are one, but that the angels and us in our first estate, that we have that connecting link with the Most High God, and that we are considered co-creators with God. And so that's what it's speaking about. Just like in Genesis with the first creation being done by Elohim. Same kind of thing, same kind of concept. All right. Check the chat room real quick. Hello, Mur. Welcome, Brother Jose, and thank all of you that have taken the time to be with us today, and I hope that this text blesses you. Since there's so many more of you now in the chat room, I'm going to go ahead and post a link to the text that I'm reading from so that you can follow along and so that you can read it for yourself whenever you should desire to do so. All right, continuing. All right. For all the sons of men have gone astray through the corruption of those angels who fell from among the gods and mingled their seed with the daughters of men and begat sons of great strength and mighty wickedness. Yea, these have caused all flesh to corrupt their way before the Lord. Wherefore they shall be destroyed, save thy son, who shall be the seed of the angels. Chapter 5. The mother of Noah was also the daughter of Methusael, for Lamech and his wife had this same father, different mothers. And when Noah was born, his body was full of light, which thing caused great consternation to his father and mother, and his father's wives and children, and all his house. Moreover, the child stood upon his feet when he had come forth from the womb, and his tongue was loosed, and he did sing praises unto the Lord, saying, I will praise thee, O Lord, for thou art the source of all power. Yea, the wellspring whence it floweth unto the sons of God, and thou art also abounding in wisdom and great and mighty counsel unto thy servants. Now remember that Christ, after his immaculate conception, where I'm in no way equating Noah to Christ, because he was God incarnate, the pre-existent God, the Most High, Yahweh Elohim, he and the Father are one, and that Noah, all of us, the sons of God, everything else, that we were formed, created by the Father and Son, and that we were created basically from the fabric of God, who is the source and the force of all things in creation. All right, continue. Nevertheless, though thou art a God who is long-suffering in judgment, the sins of the children of men have come up before thy face, and thy fury hath waxed strong, and will be visited with judgments upon the earth. Thy mercies, O Lord, are beyond number, but thou art a God that visiteth wrongdoing upon the children of men, who the fullness of their iniquity hath come upon them. Therefore shall the earth be destroyed according to the word of God, which cannot fail. For the waters of the flood shall come upon the earth, and all things shall perish from before thy face, O Lord. Nevertheless, in thee do we put our trust, for in whatsoever thou doest, O Lord, thou hast ever done justly. Amen. Chapter 6. These things were a source of amazement and concern unto Lamech, who thereupon went unto his father Methusael, and finding him in the temple, he said, My father, this day did my wife, thy daughter, bear a man child, and at his birth the room was full of light, so that we could not look upon him. And when we could look upon him, behold, the child's hair was white, and fire seemed to come forth from his eyes. And then he stood upon his feet and sang a hymn of praise unto the Lord, and lo, he seemed to have the tongue of an angel. Tell me now the meaning of these things, and how can I raise such a son? Chapter 7. Now I want to also make one other one other allusion, and this comes from the Sumerian teachings, because in the Sumerian teachings, the story is put forth that Enki, who we know as Poseidon, who is also the one that we equate to being Satan the adversary, that according to the Sumerian tradition, that Enki and not Lamech was the father of Noah. That Batanosh, the wife of Lamech, that in the Sumerian account, Enki goes to Batanosh and impregnates her with who turns out to be Noah. And according to the Sumerian teachings, which, you know, is another way of them trying to take away the honor of Noah, and that he was a son of the line of Adam and a child of Lamech, and that they are doing so in order to demarcate the specialness, the uniqueness of Noah. And I just wanted to make mention of that, because a lot of people, just as they think that Enki was the creator of modern humanity, that they also think that he was the father of Noah. So, anyways, continuing. Hearing these words, Methuselah too was troubled, and said, Fear not, my son, for although I know now the meaning of these things, I will go unto my father Enoch, for he is privy to the angels, and he will be able to explain all things to us. Whereupon Methuselah traveled to the top of the highest mountain, whence he could speak unto his father Enoch, and he said unto him, My father, my daughter, who is the wife of my son Lamech, hath this day brought forth a man-child? And at his birth, the room was full of light, so that they could not look upon him. And when they could look upon him, behold, the child's hair was white, and fire seemed to come from his eyes. And then he stood upon his feet and sang a hymn of praise unto the Lord. And lo, he seemed to have the tongue of an angel. Thus saith my son Lamech, who is greatly perplexed as to the meaning of these things, and how he can raise such a son. Chapter 8. Hearing this report, Enoch comforted his son Methusael, saying, Fear not, my son, nor fret thyself about this matter, for did not a holy angel visit thy son Lamech, and tell him that this should be the seed of the angels? And was it not so? For this cause have these things happened. But on the 8th day, when the child is circumcised, he shall be covered, and shall appear as other men, except that his hair shall remain white, as a token that through him the Lord will do a mighty work. This word did Methuselah return to his son Lamech, and he was comforted. Chapter 9. And on the 8th day, when the child was circumcised, he was covered, that he became as other men, except that his hair remained white, and they called his name Noah, which by interpretation is comfort. Because Lamech said, Mine heart is comforted to know that my seed shall be preserved through the great flood. Chapter 10. This is where it gets interesting. From here to chapter 18, it gets really interesting. And the child grew and waxed strong in wisdom and mighty in the power of the priesthood, for he was initiated into the order of the ancients in his childhood. And he learned the rites and ordinances that the powers of the priesthood, with the signs and tokens and key words wherewith he could call upon the powers of the heavens to combat the forces of the adversary. I want to make one other comment here. That Abraham, when he was born, all of the priests under Nimrod, they told him that Abraham would overthrow his kingdom and overthrow his gods. And so he sought to kill Abraham. And so Terah provided one of the children, the son of one of his concubines, that also gave birth the same night, and that hid Abram in a cave with his mother and her midwife. And that up to the point that Abram was 10 years old, he stayed in this cave, and every new moon night his father and his brothers would visit them. But after from the time that he was 3 years on, he began to speak to the angels. And when he was 10, he was led to Shalom, the city of peace that was established by Shem and Noah. And that this is where the order of the ancients, that they taught, that Shem, as Melchizedek, taught the other sons of Adam about this particular wisdom and this particular knowledge and this way of being. And that Noah also resided there in the city of Shalom, the city of peace. And that when he was 10 years old, the angels led him. He left the cave, and they led him to this city, the city of peace, Shalom. And he was then taught from the time that he was 10 to the time that he was 40, I believe, by Shem and Noah, and became an initiate under this order. All right, continuing. And when he was come of age, he took 12 wives and begat many sons and daughters, who grew up in righteousness and served the Lord all their days. And some died, and others were caught up unto the city of Enoch. But in the next generation they corrupted themselves, for the daughters of Noah's sons did go forth and lay with the sons of men, which thing was abomination in the eyes of God. Wherefore the Lord said unto Noah, Behold, the daughters of thy sons have sold themselves, for behold, mine anger is kindled against the sons of men, for they will not hearken to my voice. Wherefore all those who go in unto them will be destroyed with them. Chapter 11. And when Noah was 450 years old, he begat a son, and he called his name Japheth. 42 years later, he begat another son of her who was the mother of Japheth, and he called his name Shem. All right, so know that it doesn't mention who this woman was, the first wife of Noah, but that she was the mother of both Shem and Japheth, as it says in the book of Jasher, but that it calls Naamah the daughter of Enoch, which was from Adam's line, the mother of both Shem and Japheth. But here's where the text diverges and is different from the book of Jasher. All right, continuing. 8 years later, Noah begat a son of his wife Naamah, who was of the seed of Cain, and he called his name Ham. For he said, through him will the curse be preserved in the land. All right. So this particular text names Naamah, who is in this case the sister of Tubal-Cain and the daughter of Lamech of the line of Cain. And that it would be through her that the seed of Cain would be given continuance. Because we absolutely know that they had continuance according to the parable of the sower, that they would have so, and that the enmity between the two bloodlines, the two lineages, would play out until the time of the harvest. According, again, to the parable of the sower, Matthew chapter 13. All right, chapter 12. This is where it gets really, really interesting. Now, Noah had taken a wife of the seed of Cain, and she was a righteous woman. Nevertheless, the curse remained with her seed according to the word of God. And Noah took her on this wise, for the word of the Lord came unto Noah, saying, Take unto thyself Naamah, the daughter of Lamech, who dwelleth here in the city of thy fathers, for she hath been faithful to my gospel. Wherefore I shall preserve through her the seed of Cain through the flood. This Lamech was the father of Naamah, who was the seed of Cain, being the son of Methusael, the son of Mahujael, and the son of Irad, the son of Enoch, the son of Cain. Lamech had married Irad, Adah, and Zillah, the daughters of Canaan, the son of Enos, the son of Seth, the son of Adam. Adah bare children unto Lamech, but Zillah was barren unto her old age, when the Lord opened her womb, and she conceived and bare a son and a daughter. Her son she named Tubal-Cain, saying, After I have withered away, have I attained him from the Almighty God. Her daughter she named Naamah, saying, After I had withered away, have I obtained pleasure and delight. Chapter 13. You know what's interesting to me about the gospel is that often we find chapter 13 in whatever text it is to be a lot of times in reference to Satan or the serpent or his bloodline or his lineage. That a lot of times it plays out that way, which I think is really interesting. But before I continue with chapter 13, I want to really quick reference something from the book of Jasher of what I talked about. All right. In the book of Jasher, it says this. Noah, the son of Lamech, refrained from taking a wife in those days to beget children. For he said, surely now God will destroy the earth. Wherefore then shall I beget children? And Noah was a just man. He was perfect in his generations, and the Lord chose him to raise up seed from his seed upon the face of the earth. And the Lord said unto Noah, take unto thee a wife and beget children, for I have seen thee righteous before me in this generation, and thou shalt raise up seed, and thy children with thee, in the midst of the earth. And Noah went and took a wife, and he chose Naamah, the daughter of Enoch. Notice the differentiation here. Whereas it says Naamah, the daughter of Lamech, in the writings of Abraham, in the book of Jasher, it says Naamah, the daughter of Enoch. And she was 580 years old. And Naamah conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Japheth, saying, God has enlarged me in the earth. And she conceived again and bare a son, and he called his name Shem, saying, God has made me a remnant to raise up seed in the midst of the earth. And Noah was 502 years old when Naamah bare Shem, and the boys grew up and went in the ways of the Lord in all that Methusael and Noah, their father, had taught them. And so you see, even though both kind of say the same thing, in that the first wife of Noah was responsible for the birth of both Shem and Japheth, and that the second wife was responsible for the birth of Ham. All right. So we'll continue with the writings of Abraham. Chapter 13. While Naamah was yet a child, great consternation fell upon the seed of Cain. For Irad, the son of Enoch, the son of Cain, had become a member of the secret combination and was privy to all its secrets, until one night when the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Irad, thou hast done evil instead of good, and hast followed after Satan rather than God. Wherefore I shall destroy thee and thine house when I send in the flood upon the earth. But Irad was pricked in his heart and pled with the Lord to show mercy and preserve his seed through the great flood. Seeing that his penitence was true, the Lord said to him, Irad, if thou wilt repent and reveal the evils of the secret combination unto the sons of Seth, I will have mercy upon thee, and I will join thy seed unto the seed of Seth, that it may be preserved through the great flood. Wherefore Irad went forth and began to reveal the secrets of the sons of Cain unto the sons of Seth. Lamech, being master Mahan at that time, found Irad sitting in his garden with Joram, the young son of Irad, and slew him. Thus Lamech slew Irad for the sake of the oath of the secret combination, and he slew Irad's son with him. But Tubal-Cain, the son of Lamech, had followed him and viewed his evil deed, which he had committed, and he revealed it unto his mother Zillah, and she unto her sister Adah. Wherefore Adah and Zillah confronted Lamech with his evil, and cursed him in the name of the Lord for having slain Irad, who had repented of his wickedness from among the sons of men. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wrongdoing, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech shall be 70 and sevenfold. Want to remark that this story is different from the book of Jasher, in that it's either Jasher or Jubilees, but in the book of Jasher or Jubilees, it talks about how Lamech was hunting with his grandson Tubal-Cain, and that Tubal-Cain told him to shoot in a particular direction, having seen this great beast, and that when he shot, he killed the creature, and that and Lamech was blind, and so when he went to go see what he had killed, he realized from a horn that this creature had a great horn, and that it says also in this text that horn was the mark of the beast that was put upon Cain in order to protect him from the other people and beasts of the world. And that and it's also my contention that Cain was only protected and only preserved for a short time so that he could propagate the seed of Cain. Because if he would have been brought to death immediately, the sons of Cain, the tares, would not have been allowed to come up with the wheat. And that was the reason why this mark, not as a mark of protection, but as a mark of reprieve, that he was given reprieve for a short time, and that he was also to be killed by his own lineage, and that the curse of such murder would be, the generational curses would be passed down through his particular bloodline, his lineage. But that this story is different. It's talking about the, Tubal-Cain and Irad as being the two that were murdered. Which the book of Genesis speaks about this a little bit, but doesn't detail either of these stories in the way that you can find in this or in the book of Jasher. All right, continuing. Lamech's wives therefore feared to confront him further, but Lamech repented not of his evil deeds, and finding his son Tubal-Cain at prayer, he slew him for having revealed his murders. When Adah and Zillah, the wives of Lamech, learned of this, they took their remaining sons and daughters and went unto their father Canaan's city, and revealed the remainder of the secrets of this evil combination among the sons of Adam. Thus did Naamah come to dwell among the sons of Adam, and she grew up before the Lord in righteousness, and was known for her tender care toward the sick and the unfortunate. Nevertheless, she had not husband, because she was of the forbidden race. Chapter 14. When the word of the Lord came unto Noah, saying, Take unto thyself Naamah, the daughter of Lamech, who dwelleth here in the city of thy fathers, for she hath been faithful to my gospel, wherefore I shall preserve through her the seed of Cain through the flood. Noah went unto his father Methusael. Methusael inquired of the Lord, and returned his word unto his son Lamech. Verily, thus saith the Lord, mine handmaiden Naamah have I given unto my son Noah, that the seed of Cain might be preserved through the great flood, which I will send upon the earth. Wherefore, let not my son Noah fear to take her to wife, for in so doing he shall be blessed, for through him will come all nations. Wherefore, say unto him, Noah, my son, I have looked upon the evils of the sons of men which have come before me, for they have corrupted the whole earth, save only this city in which thou dwellest. Therefore I will send in the floods upon the earth, but thou and thy seed will I preserve through the flood, for I will send mine angels to instruct thee in the building of an ark, wherein ye shall be saved. Behold, I shall establish thy seed before me forever, and I will spread them abroad over the earth as numerous as the sand upon the seashore. Thy seed shall not cease as long as the earth shall stand, but through thee and thy priesthood which will be preserved, in thy seed shall all nations be blessed. Chapter 15. All right, one other comment here. I'll check the chat room as well. One of the reasons why I think that this particular text is, if not inspired, at least rings truthful to me, is because it's only been, recently that we've even come to understand what Christ was speaking about in Matthew chapter 13. Specifically, again, with the parable of the sower and the parable of the wheat and the tares. And the significant difference between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. Whereas most people still believe that all of humanity is of one blood, of one family. We know that to be untrue. And that those of you that share this as discernment, that share this as revelation with me, and that having done your own homework, have been led to this understanding in great profundity, we absolutely understand what Christ is speaking about now when he talks about the parable of the sower, where the enemy snuck into the garden, and that it was the enemy that had sowed the tares, and that in the parable of the wheat and the tare, he absolutely gives great clarification to that particular parable of the sower. Which I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to read it in detail because those of you that have been following this show for a long time now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that when he sent the multitudes away, and they asked him to remark upon this, what is the parable of the wheat and the tares? He told them directly. He said that he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them, part of the parable of the sower, is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Again, which is a reference to the parable of the sower. And as therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity. and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And this is also why it said in the early part of the in this Matthew chapter 13, that how kings and priests have desired to know this knowledge were not privy to this understanding, and that it would only be in the final generation, we as the fig tree generation, that this would come to light in such way that we would truly be able to understand the gospel in the way that it is meant to be understood. And so, again, it's my opinion that we are that generation, and we are the ones that are to understand this in that way. And understanding this in that way, we can make sense of the world situation, the whole thing as far as who the New World Order elites are, why all the presidents seem to be of one bloodline, and how they're blood related to the royals. And so, anyways, it's all there for you to understand if you have the eyes to see. And just as he said, if you have ears to hear. Okay, yeah, right here it says, for verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear and have not heard them. And that's when he goes into the parable of the sower, which I guess I can read that. It would be a good way to end this. And then we'll pick up next week. Speaking about the parable of the sower, he says, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man which soweth good seed in his field, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up, when the children were born, and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. And so the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. I mean, it's so plain as day to me. I've been studying this for so long, and I know that many of you also have put forth the effort to understand this discernment in the way that I do, and that we understand the difference between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. All right, chapter 15, real quick. When Lamech returned this word to his son, Noah rejoiced and praised the Lord, saying, I give thanks unto thee, O Lord, for thou hast been unto me a strong wall against all that would seek my destruction. Yea, thou hast promised to shelter my seed from the disasters which are coming upon the earth, that the flood shall not come in upon me to destroy my seed from the earth. Thou hast set my foot upon a rock, that the sons of men shall not prevail against me. Yea, I will walk in the ways of the ancients, in the paths which thou hast appointed. Will I spend my days, for thou art my shield and my deliverer, and in thee will I trust all the days of my life. Amen. One more chapter. Chapter 16. Thus did Noah take to wife Naamah, the daughter of Zillah, the wife of Lamech, of the seed of Cain. And she bare him a son, whom he named Ham. And thus was the curse preserved in the land through the great flood. For when the patience of God was ended, in which he did grant a space of time for repentance unto the sons of men, the floods came in upon the earth and destroyed all flesh from off the face of the earth, save 8 souls only. For Noah and his youngest wife, Adah, this is another wife now, and his 3 sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, and one of each of their wives were preserved in the ark with which the angels had instructed Noah in building. And so you see, something happened to Noah's first 2 wives. Even Naamah was not the wife that entered the ark with him, according to this text. Now, whether this is true or not, we don't know, but it does say that of the earth save 8 souls only for Noah and his youngest wife Adah, A-D-A-H, and his 3 sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, and one of each of their wives were preserved in the ark in which the angels had instructed Noah in building. The remainder of the righteous had died or been caught up into Enoch's city prior to the time of the flood, and these 8 were saved. One more chapter. I think I've got time. Chapter 17. Now when the flood had abated and the ark had come to rest upon the top of a mountain, Noah and his family descended, and after offering sacrifices unto the Lord and dedicating the land, they began to till the ground and raise all manner of crops. And when the grape harvest was come in, Noah made wine and drank of the new wine in his tent, and his heart was made glad, and he rejoiced before the Lord for the bounty which the Lord had given him. And it was upon the feast of Pentecost which Noah drank of the new wine before the Lord, and lay down naked in his tent to sleep. When Noah, the son of Noah, entered the tent, he saw his father sleeping naked upon his bed, with the sacred garments which had been given to Adam in the Garden of Eden laying nearby. Ham knew that he and his posterity could not bear the priesthood because of the curse of Cain which was upon them, and knowing there was great power in the sacred garments, he stole them from his father Noah and hurried to his tents. Rousing his family, Ham instructed them to strike their tents and led them away to the plain of Shinar, where he dwelt and where Ham died. Now Ham's wife was named Zeptah, and she was also of the seed of Cain, and they had a daughter named Zeptah. This daughter, after the death of Ham, led a body of his people westward until they reached the body of water in the land of Zeptah, which is Egypt, where they settled, and as the waters receded from off the land, they spread out and built many cities and temples. All right, we'll pick it up there next week. We stopped at chapter 18. I hope that you found this information of interest. I absolutely did. I was fascinated by the reading of the text, and it's interesting, again, to me, the differentiation between the seed of the woman and the seed of Cain, and the commentary that it shares on how the seed of Cain was preserved specifically to have continuance until the time of harvest when Christ comes again. God bless all of you. I hope that you have a beautiful and wonderful evening. Till next week, be blessed all.